This is Vietnam's newest night train, connecting Da Nang with Saigon using brand new rolling stock introduced in 2024. Except these carriages aren't actually really brand new, and there's quite a few strange things about this night train service. So join me on Overnight Train 21 in the train's only VIP compartment, and I'll show you all the great new features of this night train, but also talk about why I probably wouldn't catch this train again. We begin our journey at Da Nang railway station, one of the most important in the country, situated roughly in the middle of the famous reunification express route from Hanoi to Saigon. Outside of the station, there is a display of this Class 141 steam locomotive, which is based on a French design. These steam locomotives used to haul the most important express trains up and down the country, but will be pulled by something a bit more modern today. Da Nang station originally opened in 1902, but has been rebuilt many times since then. And despite the station's grand appearance, the passenger area of the station is actually rather small. It just consists of a waiting room, ticket office, and even a little VIP lounge, but that's about it really. Our train is already waiting on the platform, but it's currently hiding behind this local train bound for Hue. This local train, just making the short 3-hour journey north, is the only other service to serve the station that's not a long-distance service going all the way to Saigon or Hanoi. It's hauled by this Siemens Asia Runner locomotive, one of the newer trains in Vietnam's railways fleet, and it's very similar to the Eurorunner trains found in many places in Europe. And as that train clears the platform, our train comes into view. Night Train SE21 down to Saigon was introduced in 2024, and while there were quite a bit of press claiming it was an all-new experience, these are still just older train carriages that have been touched up with a brand new livery and completely overhauled on the inside, so I was very excited to see what this train was gonna be like. But before we board, let's have a quick look at our locomotive. Hauling us all the way to Saigon is this D19E locomotive built by CRRC and capable of 120 km per hour. They come in a few slightly different variations, with the newer locomotives featuring a more round body. There is a brief ticket and ID check up on boarding, but with that out of the way, it's time to find out what this new night train looks like. I've booked the only VIP compartment on board today's entire train, which is like 12 carriages long. And here we have it. Let's take a look. We depart Da Nang on time at 8 AM, beginning our almost 20-hour long adventure down to Ho Chi Minh City, or Saigon as the railway still calls it. It's a slow journey out of Da Nang. Being home to about 1.3 million people, Da Nang is a major city in its own right, and it does take a while to clear the urban area. And as we eventually leave the city behind, let's take a closer look at the route we'll be following today. Train SE21 leaves Da Nang daily at 8 AM and begins its 939 km long journey south, following the coast most of the way. The entire trip is scheduled to take 20 hours and 20 minutes to reach Saigon, which gives the train an average speed of 46 km per hour. It's a very humid morning, with the rain coming down in small batches. Luckily, the train is nicely and strongly air-conditioned, keeping the compartment at a comfortable temperature. And unlike many other Asian night trains, you are actually able to slightly adjust the strength of the air conditioning. That is, if you're actually tall enough to reach the vents in the ceiling of the compartment. With the train's early 8 AM departure from Da Nang, I didn't manage to have breakfast before boarding, so let's head down to the dining car and check out the rest of the train. In addition to the regular 4-person compartments on board this train, there is also the option to travel in a seated carriage. However, I would only recommend this for daytime journeys. A cool thing about this particular train is that it was the first one on Vietnam Railways to feature seats that rotate to match the direction of travel. Eventually, after walking through quite a few carriages, we get to the beautiful dining car. And wow, this one looks great! Me and my travel companion grabbed a table and ordered from the rather extensive menu, with the staff member quickly coming to the table to take our orders. And while we wait for the food to be ready, take a moment to look at this dining car. It's really been refurbished nicely, with beautiful paintings on the wall and the 4 different time zone clocks, so you can check if it's an appropriate time to send your family a holiday food picture. By the way, all the food is freshly prepared on board in the onboard kitchen. My travel companion ordered an egg and noodle dish and I opted for the congee, both costing 45,000 dong. The food was pretty tasty, and there's just something so relaxing about just sitting back, enjoying a fresh meal and watch the scenery slowly change. After a delicious meal, it's time to relax a bit in the compartment. Our train follows the route of the legendary Reunification Express, the railway line uniting North and South Vietnam, running for over 1700 kilometers from Hanoi down to Saigon. We make many stops en route, where this railway line serves as vital transport for the locals, connecting families with loved ones and work opportunities all over the country. Not to forget the many freight trains that keep the economy moving. We still have many hours to go before we'll even get close to Saigon, so let's take a closer look at the cabin we'll be spending the time in. The compartment is very spacious, being the only VIP one on board with space for just 2 travelers. The compartment can only be locked from the inside using this lock. Unlike some other trains, this is not really a proper 2-person compartment, given the top bunks are just permanently folded away. Every traveler gets a fresh pillow wrapped in plastic. There's also some slippers provided by the train company as well, although I'm not sure how frequently these are cleaned. 2 power outlets are also provided, very handy on a long journey like this. Below the beds, there's space for you to put your luggage. Every bunk gets its own reading light as well as USB port. And while you do have to be very tall to adjust the temperature or at least the strength of the air conditioning, it is possible by adjusting these knobs. Above the corridor, there is space for luggage as well as the control panel for the lights. And an additional power socket. Overall, I thought this was an excellent refurbishment, but you can definitely tell that it's an older carriage that's been done up in a few places. I must admit, I don't really understand why there's only one of these compartments on board the entire train. They cost pretty much the same as just buying 4 beds in a regular compartment, which is almost identical, and there's no benefits in terms of the actual onboard service. I'm sure there'd be plenty of tourist travelers like myself who'd be willing to pay extra for a private compartment, which could just be done dynamically through the ticket system, not selling the 2 upper bunks in a regular compartment and just having them fold away. But there's one more thing that's really holding this train back from potentially being one of the most popular trains for tourists in Vietnam. But before we get to that, it's time to go get lunch. And while you could just grab something from one of the 2 trolleys that frequently pass up and down the train, I went back to the dining car for some pork with rice. At this point, we are making good progress south, now approaching La Hai station. As the majority of this railway line is all single track, this slows down our journey time considerably, as we often have to meet with other trains. such as this freight train heading north. And after picking up a few more passengers, we continue our journey south. These carriages have also been refurbished nicely in the corridor, with pictures from around the railway network. And while I don't get the fake glass painted on the door, at least it's not just painted white. Electronic screens showing journey information, the next station and the train speed are also found throughout the train. At both ends of the carriage is where you'll find the toilet. And while it was a little tough getting the door in the right place with one hand, I eventually managed, and I found a pleasantly clean toilet stocked with toilet paper that was kept clean throughout the journey. Water was working without an issue, and it was a modern vacuum toilet equipped also with a bomb gun. Although I did find it a bit amusing, you have to hold the button for 8 seconds before the toilet flushes. In the corridor next to the toilet and this screen that seems to do nothing, you'll find a wash basin. Although I am not sure that you are supposed to drink the water from the tap here. You'd probably be better off using the dedicated water dispenser found behind the wash basin. Next up, our train calls at Tui Hoa, where we have an extended stop in order to let one of the fast reunification express trains heading for Hanoi come past us. Also note how these trains still carry a mail carriage. I'm a bit surprised this still plays a role in Vietnam, given it's got a booming aviation sector, but some things are still best done the more old school way. With the line ahead now clear again, we can begin to move out of the station. We're now entering the most scenic part of our journey, first passing through this flooded area thanks to a few days of rainfall. Although this area is known to suffer quite badly in severe floods, at least from what I could tell, it's not unusual for the landscape to look like this after just a day or two of heavy rain. Eventually the train turned to follow the coast down towards Trng, a large resort town and the biggest intermediate stop on our journey today. We leave the coast again to head a bit more inland for Trng, as the last bit of daylight starts to disappear. Pretty much as soon as the daylight is gone, you'll want to attempt to try to fall asleep. Which leads me to the biggest issue with this train, and that is the timetable. This train leaves Da Nang at 8 AM in the morning and is scheduled to get to Saigon at the unpleasant hour of 4:20 in the morning, meaning it's more like a long day train than an actual night train. And I don't even really understand why the timetable has to be this way. I do get Vietnamese people on average wake up pretty early, but let's not kid ourselves, not everybody starts their day between 3 and 5 AM. And it's not like this train fills a gap in the timetable, quite the opposite. There's already a train arriving at 3:40 in the morning and then another two at 5 AM, but then nothing till 5 PM. It seems so weird to me that they would introduce this additional service last year, but then opt to just basically run it on top of the other trains. If the train left Da Nang in the afternoon, not only would it be much more pleasant, it would also really help fill the 12-hour gap in arrivals at Saigon. But perhaps I'm overlooking something which I'd love to hear in the comments. We have now arrived in the Trng station, which features a very unusual station layout. Due to the need for trains to come out the same way they came in, instead of taking the time to run around the locomotive, a loop has been built allowing trains to continue uninterrupted. However, we still have a 20-minute stop here, which is just about enough time to go to the station shops for dinner. As I wasn't exactly in the mood for another rice and meat dish from the dining car, I enjoyed something a bit more western from the train station as our train drifted into the night. I shortly afterwards made the bed, and let me tell you, the bedding was actually excellent. The pillow was sizable and firm, and the blanket of good quality too, so it shouldn't be too hard to fall asleep. Good night. I wake up the next morning around 4 AM on the approach to Saigon. Unfortunately, I did find the beds to be quite on the harder side, and the suspension on these carriages isn't exactly great, which is not helped by the narrow gauge tracks. Sound isolation in the compartments is also not good, and you can hear pretty much everything going on in the carriage, including this music. I can't say that I slept very well, and honestly that's a shame because you can tell clearly a lot of effort has gone in to refurbish these carriages, and the overall product has turned out really nice. But I do also have to be honest in my review, and I really don't think I'd ever take this night train again. The very early arrival combined with the subpar sleep quality pretty much fully defeats the point of taking a night train in my books. We arrived very early and tired in Saigon at 04:12. And I can't help to think how this train probably could be one of Vietnam's best night trains if they just modified the timetable to be a real overnight option. So, what do you think about this night train, and do you mind the early arrival? Let me know in the comments down below. And in either case, thank you so much for joining me on this trip. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you are subscribed to the channel as I try to post a new one every Sunday. You can also follow me over on Blue Sky at intercitysimon.com. I usually post live from my travel over there in real time, so it's a great place to get a sneak peek at what videos might be coming to the channel in the future. Thanks for watching.